Today's recipe is about locally sourced produce, seasonality, and zero waste. We're going to make a summer heirloom tomato salad with a green garlic pesto, a black garlic puree, and a feta mousse. And we're going to use as much of each ingredient as possible. Also, I say locally sourced because I'm using 100-kilometer foods, which means all my food is sourced within 100-kilometer radius of where I'm from. Now, two things remain to be done. For us to get cooking, for you to subscribe, so let's go. Alright, so we're gonna start with the quinoa because that's gonna be the longest thing that we have to do today. So I'm gonna grab some of this beautiful Ontario quinoa and I'm gonna place it in a saucepan. I will then add 3 times the volume of the quinoa with veg stock. Also the veg stock, I made it myself with some scraps I had in the fridge. So once again, we're gonna try to be that zero waste type of kitchen today and actually every day. Once we did that, we're gonna place it on the heat and we're gonna cook it until it's completely cooked, like fully cooked. In the meantime, we're gonna start working on our feta mousse. For that, I'm gonna grab some delicious Ontario cream that I'm gonna place into a saucepan. I will take some gelatin as well that already bloomed and some cold water, and I'm gonna add that to the cream and place it on the heat. And the idea is just to melt it. So we're gonna give it a bit of a whisk, tiny whisk, just make sure it's completely dissolved and let it simmer gently. And while this is happening, we're gonna grab a blender and I'm gonna place my cheese. I got 2 types of cheese. I have some regular feta from Ontario, as well as another ship's milk cheese from Ontario, but it's a little stronger in terms of taste because I really wanna have that like cheesy flavor. I'm gonna then pour my hot milk over the cheese. It's gonna help melting it. We're gonna close the blender and we're gonna blend it until it's completely smooth. At which point I'm going to remove from the blender and we're gonna place it inside our ISI canister. And before you do so, you wanna make sure you actually give it a try. I'm not gonna add any seasoning because the natural salt from the cheese is, for me, enough for this actual dish. So once I'm happy with that, and you know what, if you feel like it needs more salt, feel free to add some. But like I say, I'm really happy with this. So now I can actually pour it inside the canister and we're gonna load 2 charges of NO2, which is gonna allow to have some air, and that's what's gonna create the foam filling from the mousse, right? It's gonna be like super aerated, like if we do some whipped cream. It's the exact same idea. So we're gonna grab the canister and then we're gonna shoot it. Make sure that the bottom of your ISI actually almost touches the mousse, and we're gonna gently continue to push it, and then we're gonna remove the ISI all the way to the top until you have a full container. Once you fill the 2 containers, you're gonna place it in the fridge to set. While our cheese mousse is sitting, we're gonna start working on the black garlic puree, which is super easy. I'm gonna add some veg stock into a saucepan and I'm gonna bring it again to a simmer. Basically, I just want it to be warm so it will be easier to make the puree. I will then take my black garlic and I'm gonna peel it off. If you actually want to see how to make black garlic, I could actually do a video, so just drop a comment below and tell me that you'd love to learn and I will teach you. Alright, once I peel off my garlic, I'm gonna place it into my blender and I'm gonna top up my black garlic with some of the veg stock. You don't have to add it all at once, you can do little by little so you can kind of gauge the consistency. We're gonna blend it until it's completely smooth, which at the point where you're happy and it's like smooth and delicious, we're gonna give it a try. Again, I'm not gonna season it. The natural seasoning salt from the black garlic is good enough. It's very sweet, and that beautiful coffee caramelized flavor that I love from black garlic is really present. So I'm gonna take it off and place it in a piping bag. I'm gonna then take the piping bag, cut the tip, and I'm gonna put it in a squeeze bottles. Obviously, this is for presentation. If you do not have piping bags at home or squeeze bottle, it's absolutely fine. What you can do is just to put it into a container and we can spoon it later. Again, this is really just for presentation sakes. So when we're busy with our black garlic, we cooked the quinoa. It's fully cooked, it's almost overdone, like mush. We're gonna then place it onto a baking tray and we're gonna leave it at 200 until it's completely dry. While this is happening, I'm gonna start working on our pesto. So in my blender, I'm gonna add some garlic, some toasted pine nuts, my herb, which I have some parsley, and then my green garlic. And then you see the parsley was going bad, so it's a perfect use to put in a pesto. I will then top up with some olive oil, a bit of salt, and some Parmesan cheese. Once we have everything in, we're gonna close the blender and we're gonna start mixing it until we have a smooth paste. When we're at that step, we're gonna start emulsifying this beautiful green puree with more oil until you have that pesto consistency. Also, please note I'm doing a coarse pesto. If you need something a bit smoother, you will just have to blend it for a little bit longer. All right, let's move on to the tomato, and we should try them. And that took me actually 17 times, not gonna lie. I'm gonna give it a low score, and then once I score it, I'm gonna place them into my bowl. I will then wash them, and it's time for a quick blanch. So in some salted water, boiling, we're gonna place them for about 20 to 30 seconds. I will then take them off and shock them, which means put them on ice. Basically, the temperature contrast between super hot and super cold is going to blister that skin, which is going to be essential for the next step, which is the most fun of the day. We have to peel those tomatoes. Again, you don't have to, but I highly suggest it. Because we're also gonna keep the skin. Yes, we're not wasting anything today. So once we peel all the tomato, we're gonna put them aside, and I'm gonna dry off all the skins because obviously when you fry something, you wanna make sure it's as dry as possible so it doesn't splatter. So with some absorbing paper, I'm going to squish them to remove as much moisture as possible. We will then take them onto the stove and we're gonna start frying them on some oil that I bring up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. When it starts bubbling, you know it's almost crispy, so we're gonna take them off the oil. We're gonna place them on some absorbing paper, which you know every time we fry something on the channel, this is what we do. Frying onto absorbing paper, and what's next? Yes, you've guessed it. We're gonna season it. It is super important to always season everything you fry right after, not only because the salt is gonna get caught onto whatever you're frying, but also it's gonna help absorbing the extra oil. Speaking of frying, it's time to fry our quinoa that now looks like it's the same way it was raw, but now it's actually fully cooked and we can puff it. So we're gonna puff it in the oil, and I like to use a little sieve so it allows me to actually catch it all at once because it can go from perfectly cooked to burn within a second. So that little tips will help you along the way. All right, well, now it's time to plate a beautiful dish. So I'm gonna start by taking some tomatoes, and basically I wanna make sure I have a bit of every color, and because you know, life is beautiful, lots of colors. So once I did that, I'm gonna add some of the pesto. Okay, so obviously it's pretty strong because it's garlic, some salt and some pepper. I will toss them around, and also you wanna make sure it's actually room temperature. Never serve cold tomato. It's not gonna be tasty. All right, so in the bottom of the plate, I'm going to add the feta mousse, about a cannelle. Then I will take my tomato and we're gonna plate them around, and obviously there's no like right or wrong, but try to have different colors next to each other. Then I'll place my puffed quinoa. Then I will finish with some dollops of black garlic. Also remember, this is pretty strong. Then we're gonna add our delicious fried skinned tomato. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more of our feta mousse, just some little dollops, just so we can see that white is gonna be beautiful contrast of colors. Then I'm gonna finish with some parsley because we used it in our pesto, so it's a nice recall. And that is it, a delicious, locally sourced tomato salad. Everything is coming from less than 100 kilometers around where I am from. Also, zero waste, or at least as little as possible. Maybe a couple skins, or maybe about like 50 grams of waste for the whole dish. If you enjoyed this recipe, please like, comment, and subscribe. The recipe will be in the description below, as always. I will see you in the next episode, and if you allow me, I'm going to try this. Such an harmony between all the ingredients, and trust me, when tomatoes are actually unseasoned, there's nothing better than that.